we're going to show you a really cool method of how to build a grid that doesn't require the vanishing points to be on the page. So this grid is called the brewer grid, and you find it on page 54. And we're just going to move through this. The cool setup about this is we can just basically place initially a vertical line in here. And I like to put it a little bit off center, so you don't necessarily want to have it completely in the middle of the page. To build a grid, you will have to aim for a vanishing point. So if you think of this as the front corner of a box, this line would be aiming for the right vanishing point here. And I'm gonna build another line that's a little bit stronger in at the angle pointing upwards in this case, that will go to the left vanishing point. So if we have these three lines set, there will be the next one coming in, and at this point I'm completely parallel to the line that moves towards the right vanishing point. This is not the ideal case scenario. We don't want to have a parallel line on the page. We want to actually converge this towards the horizon line. So we're converging this line a little bit, and the amount of convergence that you're going to be choosing here really depends on what kind of grid you want to have and what kind of view you're going to want to have. We're really going through the cone of vision of this, basically to make sure that the cone vision is here. We covered it in page 23, and where the vanishing points are sitting is on page 25. But to get a better idea, you want to actually look a little bit in advance in the book, and if you just go to page 166, it will cover the lenses in terms of how lenses are influencing your grids. One thing that you need to recognize at this point is the grid is actually completely defined. With these four lines, there's only one line going from here and hitting that left vanishing point. To illustrate that, we're gonna just make a little drawing here at the base of our construction. So we drew a vertical line, we drew a line to the right vanishing point, and we drew a line towards the left vanishing point. And then what we did is we drew another line towards the right vanishing point. And those two lines are crossing here, so let's repeat this. This is the vertical line that we're looking at. This is the line going to the right vanishing point. This is the other line going to the right vanishing point, and they need to cross somewhere. And then we have the line going towards the left vanishing point. What you need to understand now is that with this, we have a horizon line, and there's only one horizon line going through this. So this would assume that we can actually draw everything on the page at this point. If this is true, then you can draw out this line, and you will see that this line pointing to the left vanishing point has one specific point where the vanishing point is, and that's where the horizon line crosses with this line. And the line that we're looking for, that one up here, there's only one solution for it. It needs to point over here. So we're a little bit constrained, because we only see this part on our page. That's all we see. So we need to work with this. In an earlier chapter, I think we were looking at around page 23, we were covering the picture plane. And if you draw something in a picture plane, the elements stay one to one. So what I did draw is, I drew a vertical line in here, then I transferred this line over here. Wherever it crosses the lower line, that's where it went vertically up, and these are 90-degree angles. And as you can see, this lines up perfectly to find our left vanishing point in this little drawing. So we can do the same thing on our big drawing. And what you want to do is, I actually prefer to find first that line on the ground. And what you see is, I want to have as long as a line possible to reduce the amount the amount of mistakes I can make while I do this. If we go in really close in here, it would be really easy to make a tiny mistake and it would just read throughout the whole drawing. So getting that construction plane as wide on the page as possible is the ideal case scenario. Now I'm drawing a line 90 degrees from this vertical, or 90 degrees to this vertical. Flip it around and use that intersection point to find this point. So we have these 2 points are matching now. So what we did is we drew this line on the ground first, went up vertically, and then moved across to see where these 2 lines are meeting. When we connect this, we end up with a base layout for our grid. That's usually not enough for us to work with it, so the best way to expand on your grid is you divide this line in half. To divide this line in half or in quarters, you can either use the Mutter divider or just use a straight edge. So I'm looking at this and going, this is about 5, so this is 0 in here. Or another cool method that you can use is, let's hope this is long enough. I grab the top point, I grab the bottom point here, and then I take the page and just divide it in half. I just fold it. And if I want to have quarters, I could fold this again. So I don't really have to measure. And then I bring this back into position and mark the quarter point off, mark the halfway point off, and find the quarter point here too. I will have to do the same thing for the other side. So let me go at this for a second. So I'm going all the way to the top, mark this off, this once in half. And what you will find is what's really interesting about this, the line that we have here, that is divided into quarters, is actually the same length as this line over here. 2, 3. So I want to call this the halfway point. This is a half, and this one is half too. And you can connect these now to expand your grid, to get more lines into this grid. So I'm taking now the quarter point and expanding it as well. And all these lines are actually moving, as you can see, towards the right vanishing point. You see they all have a convergence toward that side. And then we're going to do the same thing for the left vanishing point. So the convergence now is moving towards this direction. And then I grab the last line up here and extend it as well. Now if there's a need for you to expand the grid more, you can actually take these points and move them downwards or upwards. It's really your choice how many lines you need to make your own drawings. So it's just something you just work with and see how it actually works out for you. One last thing that you should actually as well do is put a couple more vertical lines into this grid. It's always good to have a good orientation in terms of where your verticals are. Is there an even spacing needed? Not necessarily. It just makes it look neater. With this, you have your brewer grid. If you want to clean it up a little bit, you might as well remove this line, and you might want to remove this line down here, but it's not really necessary. So when this brewer grid is built, you just lift it up and slide it underneath your page, wherever you're going to be drawing. And that gives you a really good orientation wherever your vanishing points are. So we can use this grid actually as a base to create a different grid as well. So this was a little bit more of a conservative grid, and what we're going to be laying out here is a little bit of a stronger grid on this one, with a little bit more of convergence. So what I'm going to keep is actually the top line here, because I don't want to converge this much more, but I'm going to take the baseline here and push it up a little bit. And then I'm going to push this line too. So whenever you build your first grid, that doesn't mean you are stuck with what you have. You can easily change it. So same rules apply, so we need to just go through this and quickly apply our rules. Draw the line across. We talked about this being in the fixture plane, and towards the top. And close it out to the other side. And what you will see is this grid will actually have a much stronger convergence. I'm going to pull the one underneath it. Now we're going to use the multi-divider to subdivide this quickly. Quarter steps. Expand it. As well. Quarter steps. Going to the base point. And build out the grid. So you can see with this is actually a very, very fast method to build a grid. And even adjust the grid that you had beforehand, where you said, well, this was not quite the convergence that you were looking for. No problem. Just go back in and rebuild the grid quickly. And any of these grids are really good assets, so you just want to keep them around for you to work with and slide underneath the page whenever you need them. Here I have a much stronger grid, and I show you now the earlier one. It was this one. It was a little bit more conservative. So depending on your subject matter, you want to choose one or the other and start using them, slide them underneath your pages, and build your drawings. So with this, you're ready to build some really cool XYZ shapes.